When it comes to retirement, do you want to have the same old plan everyone else has? Of course not. You're unique and have your own goals and dreams. Don't be treated like a number. This is your retirement. So it's time to think differently. And you're in luck because you found the Retire Your Way podcast with Dave Lopez, founder and managing member of ILG Financial. At ILG Financial, you won't find generic run-of-the-mill plans containing the same old cookie-cutter solutions. Dave and the ILG Financial team focus on building one retirement plan at a time using their Think Differently philosophy. And that means your own comprehensive plan with customized solutions built to achieve just one goal, yours. So put on your Think Differently hat and get ready to take back control of your retirement today and for all the tomorrows to come. ILG Financial's Retire Your Way podcast was created just for you, and it's starting right now. Coming to you from the ILG Financial Studios, this is Retire Your Way, the show that gives you straight talk and honest answers about how to achieve your financial goals through smart investing and careful planning. Glad to have you along with us today. We have some valuable information for you that could change your financial life for the better. My name is Jeff Shade, and as always, I'm just here to ask the questions, of course, but the words of wisdom and solid advice come from Dave Lopez of ILG Financial. How you doing today, Dave?
Boy, I'm doing great. Really looking forward to this podcast today. We've got some great information.
That's right, Dave. Always happy to be with you here. I learned so much from you, and I know that our listeners learned a lot from you and all your experience there at ILG Financial. On today's show, we're going to be talking about your 5-part financial plan that you offer there at ILG. And in addition to that, we'll talk about the Secure Act. That is something that was signed into law recently, and I think the reason behind the Secure Act is Americans just have not been great savers. But let's start off, Dave, with this 5-part financial plan. All this is on your website, of course, ilgfinancial.com. So when people come into you and they initially sit down with you, have their complimentary consultation, and you take a look at what they have, maybe where they want to go and begin to design a plan. Let's talk about the 5 steps in doing that. The first one, I would imagine, is to get to know the people, sort of a little discovery process, right?
It is. And remember, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, Jeff, is that we are a fiduciary advisor, which is very different than most people have ever experienced. It's more in the line of what you'd get if you went to see your accountant, your attorney, or your doctor. And what we mean by that is we're not selling any one tool. Really, every financial tool available, for the most part, is available through our firm, just like they would be available to you as a consumer. So we really don't have a dog in the hunt as far as trying to push one tool over another. Our job is to discover where you are now as far as what assets you have that you want to use towards your goals and your risk tolerance and your timeline, and then to talk a lot about your goals and see what you're trying to accomplish. It's different for everybody, isn't it, right? And then once we know where you are now and where you want to go, only then are we going to be in a better position to start to build out a plan. So the first phase, or the first step in our 5-part process, we call it the discovery and analysis phase, and that's taking in a lot of information. The client, you will be doing a lot of talking, we'll be doing a lot of taking notes.
I would imagine, Dave, that part of this discovery process not only is finding out where they want to go and what tools to use, but also just trying to find out who this person really is, what their individual circumstances are. I mean, do they want a retirement that involves going on vacations to Europe, or do they want a little more sedate retirement? What are your goals individually?
Yeah, you're right, exactly. And one of the things that's very exciting, this is one of the things, interestingly, Jeff, that makes this job so fun, is we sit down during work hours. And basically, I spend this first hour talking about these wonderful people we are now meeting. Tell us about your life and your work and your career and what have you done. And you would not believe the incredible accomplishments we have heard from people. It's just quite amazing when you realize other people's lives and what they've done, and we just don't take the time to ask them. We have the blessing to sit here and listen to literally a autobiography of somebody and what they've accomplished, and it's humbling, right, to see a couple married 30 or 40 years, and they've gone through all these hardships and scraped and saved and lost all their money and then worked and gained it back and put their kids through college, and now they've put $500,000 together, and then they say, and that's where we are. And I say to myself and to them, I'm like, what a story. Let's make that into a book. It's remarkable. We've met folks with athletic accomplishments that are amazing, accomplishments through the federal government that are unbelievable, the things they've been privy to and done, folks in private industry that have had incredible accomplishments and tragedies and recovered. It's just a wonderful one or two meeting process to get to know them. So that's the discovery. Now, that part of the discovery that's the part that's really interesting. The math geek part, which of course, I gravitate to, is collecting the data, right, on all their assets. We need to see what we've got to work with, right? If you're going to build a shed and you came to me and said, Dave, I need help building a shed. Well, before we ever even talk about what type of shed, I need to know what's the goal. What are you trying to put in the shed? And then what do we have to work with? What tools do we have to work with? What supplies? Do you have any wood? What kind? So that'll help us decide what tools we may have to purchase or rent, right? And what other supplies we may have to purchase. It's the same way with building a retirement plan. So we're going to talk about what's in their retirement accounts, what's in their other type of savings accounts, brokerage accounts, what's their real estate situation. Do they have 4 or 5 rentals they're trying to get rid of but don't want to pay taxes? Well, we can help with that. Do they have just their one house? Is it paid for? All these questions, what's your long-term care situation? What's your life insurance situation? All of that data has to be collected in advance, just like a doctor getting your medical history, before we ever start to talk about building out a strategy. So that's the discovery analysis. The last part of discovery is we start to collect data from them on what you want to do moving forward, right? We see where you are now. What's the goal here? How would you define a successful retirement? And what's interesting, and this really sets us apart from really everybody else in the financial industry that are advisors that are just trying to show you how to invest in an account and maybe get a 0.5% better return. As a comprehensive retirement planning firm, we're not about getting a better return or maybe a 0.5% worse return. I'm about having you achieve success in retirement. And we define success at ILG Financial as literally listing your goals and then quantifying them. If you said, for example, Jeff, one of my goals is we want to travel every year for the next 5 or 6 years while we still physically can do it without, having a discomfort as we age. I hear that one a lot. Well, what we want to do now is let's quantify that. What are we talking about? $10,000 a year? Will that get you your dream vacations? Or is it 15? Or is it 3? Once we do that, now it's just doing the math to see how much of your assets we have to set aside for that goal. And can we do that and still guarantee you won't run out of money? You'll be able to deal with long-term care. We've got an inflation hedge, all these other things that have to be taken care of with housekeeping.
So the first step there is discovery, not only finding out what you have in terms of financial assets to work with, but also who you are as an individual, who you are as a person, and that's very, very important. Second step here, Dave, is going to be the strategy. Tell me more about that.
Okay, now we know what they have to work with. We know their history, and we also know their goals, right? We've quantified what they want to accomplish, and usually the goals are something like this. 1, I don't want to run out of money, and we've already done some income planning to figure out what that means, how much they need. Number 2 usually is survivor income. If one of us dies and we lose a pension, I want to make sure the survivor still has enough money. Number 3 could often be long-term care. We want to make sure we're not a burden to our children. We need a plan if one of us or both of us needs to go into a facility that we have the extra money necessary to get the care we want on our terms. Number 4 is often, it's different for everyone. Number 4 is often an inflation hedge, right? We know there could be inflation. We don't want to be scraping down the road because we didn't build in a plan. One that's always in the plan, usually after that, is fun money, right? That's the travel and the fun, or maybe gifts and trips with the grandkids. It's different for everybody, isn't it? I've got one guy who is buying a new RV, and they're just going all over the country for about a year and a half before they come home and do everything they've ever wanted to do. It's just wonderful. And then after we do that one, usually for most, it's different. Usually for most, the last one on the list is legacy. Most of my clients say, hey, if there's any left, God love them, I want the kids to have whatever's left. But I'm not going to sacrifice my fund money or any of these other goals so that they can have more. Now, other folks, when we do the plan, even when they do everything on their list, it is quite clear that there's a huge part of their assets that are going to transfer to the kids. So legacy becomes a very important part. If we know the kids are going to get $500,000 or $500,000, even no matter what, you won't be able to spend all this money. Now it's very important to say, how do we transfer that money down the road to them as efficiently as possible. And efficiently means I want them to get as much as possible, and I want Uncle Sam to get as little as legally possible, even when I believe taxes are going up over our lifetime. So that's what legacy planning is all about, is put them in a situation where we can minimize the tax implications and maximize the growth of money going to the kids.
That's Dave Lopez with ILG Financial, and our show, of course, is called Retire Your Way. If you want more information about anything that Dave's talked about here on the show, you can go to the website ilgfinancial.com. Now, Dave is in Stafford, Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C., but, of course, Dave has clients all over the country. You don't feel like that if you're not in the D.C. metropolitan area that you can't work with Dave because, of course, with FaceTime and screen sharing and all that, you can talk to Dave personally. Once again, it's ilgfinancial.com. We've been talking about the 5-part financial plan that they offer there at ILG Financial, and we'll continue with that when our show continues right after this.
You're one step closer to learning what a customized retirement strategy can do for you. Stay tuned for more of ILG Financial's Retire Your Way podcast with Dave Lopez.
When it comes to something really important, like your retirement planning, have you ever felt like people are talking at you instead of to you? Things are different at ILG Financial. We understand that there's a person, a story, and a lifetime of hard work that built that nest egg, and we never forget how much is riding on it. At ILG Financial, we think differently about your retirement because it's supposed to be all about you, not just your portfolio. That's why we work with you to integrate your lifestyle goals into our comprehensive retirement planning process, because we believe it's possible to have financial security and still pursue the things that make you happy. We'll show you how your lifestyle goals can help shape your income and investment plan as part of our retirement planning process. If you're ready for a different approach to retirement planning, call us today for a complimentary consultation at 540-720-5656. That's 540-720-5656. Or go online to ilgfinancial.com. Investment advisory services offered through AlphaStar Capital Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. AlphaStar and ILG Financial are independent entities.
Income, legacy, growth. It's all right here at ILG Financial. And it's about helping you plan for retirement your way so you can achieve your financial goals. Call ILG Financial at 540-720-5656 or go online to ilgfinancial.com to learn more. Now back to the Retire Your Way podcast with Dave Lopez.
Welcome back to Retire Your Way Radio with Dave Lopez. My name is Jeff Shade. Thanks a lot for joining us this week on our podcast. We're talking about Dave's 5-part financial plan that they offered there at ILG Financial. Now, Dave, we talked about where people are, where they've been, what they've got, what their goals are. Let's go to the next step in that 5-part plan, and that is going to be the strategy building.
Yes, now it really starts to get exciting, right? Just as a review, we now know where they've been, we know what they've accumulated, what we have to work with, and we know what their goals are in retirement, so we can define success for them. Now we're going to start building a plan. We're going to start building a plan based on those goals and with the assets or the investment tools, the accounts that they have that we have to work with. So what we will do now is we will start to piece together and use what we call a bucket strategy. And this is what's very interesting, and it's new to most folks. When people come to meet with us, this strategy, as we call a bucket strategy, is very different than anything they've used before. And there's a reason for that, Jeff. The reason is for the last 40 years, they have been in what we call the accumulation phase of their life with respect to their financial planning. What that means is the goals for everyone have been the same from age 21, 22 to roughly age 55. That's the accumulation phase of your life. And here's the goals. 1, put in as much money into savings as you can, 401k, IRA, regular saving. That's goal 1. Goal 2 is pick investments that you think over time will get you the best average rate of return so you can build your bucket, your savings bucket up as big as possible. And 3 is don't touch the money. That is the beginning of the accumulation phase. It's the same for everybody. So that's why if you've worked with an advisor and you're between ages of 21 and 55, they all talk about average rate of return because that's the only really goal here is to get the bucket as big as possible if you're not touching the money. You are now moving into the distribution phase. And one of the things we spend a lot of time educating our clients on is that as you move into this distribution phase, all the rules for investing change. Everything you've done goes out the window because it's a whole different game now. Every penny you've accumulated, every piece of real estate, every asset will be distributed in the next 20 to 30 years. And it's either going to go as income, fund money, medical bills, long-term care, you name it, or legacy. But everything's going to go. We can't take it with us. Agreed?
Absolutely. Never seen a hearse towing a U-Haul. You can't take it with you.
Right. Now, they try, right? People, those pharaohs used to bury themselves with everybody, but it still didn't go with them, I would propose, right? No. Depending on where they're going, right? And we know that because when they dig up the pyramids, it's still there. Right. So back to the strategy. So we're now in the distribution phase. The rules are all different because now what we do, how we invest is based on the premise that we are actually going to distribute this money, and it's all going to be distributed differently. Just as we mentioned, some for income, some for survivor income for the surviving spouse if you die at different times, which is likely. Some for possible long-term care expenses. Some for fun money and gifts for the kids. And you get the idea?
I get it.
Right? So now it's more important. Average rate of return now really doesn't matter. What matters now is how can we invest a specific bucket for each of those goals? How can we quantify how much we'll need to enable you to do with those goals what you want to do? And how can we do it using as little of the money as possible, taking as little risk as possible, and giving us the best chance for success? That's completely different than just getting an average rate of return. And in a future podcast, we'll give you a great example of that with something called sequence of return risks, which shows you an example of you can get a great average rate of return over time. And if you're using that bucket for income, you could still run out of money. So it could be a complete disaster as far as plan building. But if your goal was 7% average rate of return, you would have gotten it. So it's a perfect example of a time when average rate of return is completely meaningless based on your goals.
That's Dave Lopez of ILG Financial. We're talking about the 5-part financial plan that they use there at ILG. Discovery strategy. The next one, Dave, is going to be due diligence. Tell us more about that.
That's an interesting one, and this is one that you really rarely see with advisors, even ones that have some type of a strategy like or process like we're going through. Due diligence is now at this phase, we've played with the plan. We've together shifted things in different ways till we got it the way we want it. And by that I mean how much risk we want to take, projected downside if we have a major economic collapse, and all those type of things. Now that we have it the way we want it, we are going to literally try to make the plan fail. And that's what we mean by due diligence. The clients and I together are going to literally throw out every possible thing that could happen in the future that we can think of. And then we're going to look at the plan today and say, well, what would happen if that happens? Now, on my end, I will throw out about everything that could happen economically. For example, what if interest rates go through the roof? How will that affect their plan? What if interest rates stay ridiculously low like they are now for the next 10 years? What if we have inflation? What if we have deflation? What if the stock market continues to go through the roof, which it's been doing as of this recording? What if the market tanks and stays low for 10 or 15 years before it finally starts to recover? So we'll go through all of those different things, and we will actually walk through how each bucket would perform in those environments. And what we're looking for is a comfort level that even when those things happen, you will still be able to do everything on your list. All of your goals you'll still be able to accomplish. Now, obviously, in some environments, you'll end up with more money at the end of the day and some less. But the goal here isn't to wind up with a big bucket of money. The goal is to check off everything on those list of goals and be able to do it regardless of what happens in the economy. And we want to give you the best chance of that happening. So that's what we do on my end. And then the client's part, and I'm going to really push them for this, is your family better than anybody. What specifically is going on in your family that could happen in the future that I don't know about that could affect the plan? For example, do you have a special needs child? Do you have a child who you really think is going to go through divorce and you guys might have to substantially support them for time? Just what's special that we would want to build into the plan so if it happens, we can implement that. We do that until we think we've got everything answered, and then we go one step further, Jeff. We have a list of 5 critical questions, and anyone who's interested in that, if they just go to our website where it says contact us, send me an email, I'll send these to you because everyone should have this list. These are 5 questions that we recommend you ask about any investment before you get into it. And the idea is most folks, if they have a little buyer's remorse after they buy a stock or a mutual fund, the reason for that is this, their brain is telling them, hey, I don't really have a formal process to know if this was a good investment. If you had a process, you wouldn't worry about it. You just run it through the filter of the process. If you got your 5 checks, you'd know you're okay. Well, you can use these 5 critical questions as a process to identify if any investment is a good fit based on your goals. So I don't want to go into the 5 questions, but the point is after we go through those 5 questions, Jeff, if we get 5 yeses, that's your indication that this is a good fit based on your goals. So then we can both check that off, that this is the right thing, and we can move off without any concerns that we're making the right or the wrong decision at this juncture. That is the due diligence process, and it is imperative when you're doing investing that you have somewhere in your planning process a due diligence process.
So that's going to be the due diligence part of it, Dave. And of course, that's very important to put that plan through a stress test to see how it's going to perform no matter what the market does. Next one on the list is implementation.
Yeah, now it gets, from a math geek point of view, it gets very easy. We've got the plan built out. Now it's just a matter of implementing it. That would be equivalent to already we've now got the blueprints for a building. Now it's just a matter of following the blueprints. So now what we're going to do is just start moving and investing the assets in such a way to build out the strategy that we've all just agreed on that we want to do. And that's just, a lot of paperwork and some decisions on which accounts you have are going to go into which buckets. And that's really very easy. It's kind of reverse engineering at this point. So the implementation part takes about a meeting to start to get the paperwork done and process it.
All right. And then finally, Dave, in this 5-step plan that you offer there at ILG Financial, it's going to be monitoring. I would imagine that you check in every once in a while just to see how things are going.
Absolutely. And we tell folks at this stage, we said, listen, one thing I can promise you for sure about what's going to happen in your future is that it won't go as planned. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Absolutely. Nothing ever usually goes as planned.
That's exactly right. So we don't know what's going to happen. But, Ben Franklin said, plan for the worst and hope for the best. Well, that's what we've done if you've picked that up today with this strategy. We've built out a plan, as you said it very well, that stress tests that we believe has our best chance of success even when some of the worst economic events of the last 70 or 80 years happen. So you can have a peace of mind that you've done all you can do to be able to achieve your goals. We don't know which of those is going to happen. So what we tell our clients is, I don't know what's going to happen in your life moving forward, but we've built this plan out so it is flexible enough so that we can turn left or turn right or make changes based on these things that happen. And I tell folks, I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you exactly what I'm going to say to you when something does happen. So if it's something that's wonderful, good news, I'm going to say, Jeff, listen, I'm glad to hear that for you and your wife. It's congratulations to you and your family. If you remember, back when we built your plan, we discussed this and we said if this was going to happen, we were going to make this change in the plan. We are now going to implement that. Likewise, if God forbid there's some bad news, I'm going to say, Jeff, listen, I'm sure sorry to hear that happened. If you remember back when we built the plan, we built in a strategy if this was going to happen. So no worries, we are now going to make a left turn here and shift the plan to take care of this contingency. Thank goodness we built it into the plan. That is what we talk about with the monitoring. Now, to make that happen, we are going to meet regularly for the rest of your lives. Most of our clients are clients for the rest of their lives and it makes perfect sense, right? We've built out a plan that's going to last for the rest of their lives. They don't want to now leave and not have me around to help them implement that plan as time goes on. So one of the fun things we talk about with our clients, and we mean it, is that, when you come on board with us, just like family, we're in it for life. And we treat you like family, and sometimes that's not in a good way. If you've ever had the nutty aunt that bugs you about something when you don't want to hear about it, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you know it's because she loves you, well, that's going to be us, right? We will meet with our clients as often as you want to meet. There's never a charge, never a fee to meet. However, if you're just getting on with your life and doing your fun stuff and you're not reaching out to us, we will reach out to you a minimum of once a year just to say, listen, I know you guys are busy, but even a phone call, remember the old you don't know what you don't know? We just have some questions. We want to make sure there aren't some changes that would require me to suggest us making some adjustments to the plan. So that's what we do for folks. In addition, we keep in contact with you through e-newsletters and invitations to come have dinner with us at different events and fun things. And the reason we do all of those things things is just to get together so that we're more like family and friends. And the reason that's important is then we'll be at the tip of your mind if something happens in your life. We want you to be in a position, Jeff, that if something happens and you and your wife are sitting down and you said, hey, that's a big life change. I wonder if that's going to affect our financial plan. I want you to have the assumption that it will and say, you know what, let's call or email Dave and the team and see if it's going to have any effect. That's the monitoring process. We're very proud of it. It's a lot of work on our end, and we are glad to do it because that's what we're here for.
Dave, it's always great to be treated like family. I'm glad that you treat your clients that way as well, too. We've been talking about Dave Lopez's 5-step financial plan there at ILG Financial. Of course, it's discovery, strategy, due diligence, implementation, and then the last step is monitoring on an ongoing basis. So that's our podcast for today. Before we go, I want to remind people, if you do visit the website ilgfinancial.com, you can download Dave's chapter of the book, Mama's Secret Recipe for Retirement Success. I think you'll find that interesting and entertaining. Thanks for joining us this week on Retire Your Way, and we invite you to join us next time when we'll talk about the sequence of return risk and this book, Mama's Secret Recipe for Retirement Success and Comprehensive Income Planning. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again next time with another edition of Retire Your Way.